We are officially live.
Unless your finger goes.
Okay, good. Live. So what I'll do is I'll make this go there. Then how does this?
Just space bar stick? Oh, make that go for
And like listening to her and like, you know, processing that.
Do you want to wear this, Jerry? Want to wear this?
No, I don't need it.
Are you sure? I think it might be good though.
Maybe
for-
put it over there.
It might be good for the
drift.
listening audience. Oh, where? You're gonna be doing it. Yeah, I'm live. That's helpful.
Check 1, 2.
Oh, you can, yeah. 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 It's amazing.
So then you should probably practice.
Yeah.
Plenty of food outside. Anyone is hungry. Maybe dog or bag.
That's your space.
Yeah. Or you can wear this. I can stand over there. Yeah, we're good, I think.
All right, nothing if I'm not punctual. It's 11:15. Thank you for joining us for our second session of Speaker Transformation. My name is Brendan Blair. I'm proud to introduce our speakers, Jerry Slazak and Jim Groom, who are going to talk to us about transformation through convergence.
All right, so good morning, everyone. Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Thanks for the leader of the Hardy Bunch that wants to hear about something that's not electronics, right? Not digital, right? What we want to talk about today, my name is Jerry Slazak, I'm IT support services in Washington. My colleague in crime, I'm Jim Groom. I'm the director of consumer technologies at Washington. And Jim and I go back a ways. I used to have his job before he got it. I moved into IT support about 4 years ago. But what we're going to talk about today is something that we've been working on in Mary Washington for 7 years. So, and it goes back farther than that as an idea from our then CIO, Chip German. He had this idea of a building. Mary Washington needed a data center. The data center was in the bottom of an academic building that would tend to sometimes get wet, right? So not a good combination for a data center. We needed a data center, but we also needed some other things across our campus that just weren't there. So he wrote this proposal, got it in the 6-year plan for the institution. Mary Washington is a state institution, so we fill out a 6-year plan, and they sent it to the state. The state looked at it and said, "Oh, yes, indeed, so." And it ended up getting approval because it was unique, right? So it was combining the IT with this whole idea of convergence. So academic units are in here as well. There's open spaces. There's lots of things in this building that we'll talk about. 4 stories, 80,000 square feet. We just opened this past fall in August, even though they were still building it around us to some extent. So, but and some of the other things that are more complex spaces in the building just came online. But what we'd like to talk to you about this morning is what we've got in there and how we think it fits really well with what we heard Amy talking about this morning. For all those different components, except this one we're talking about physical space. Okay, all those same components she was talking about that are important in class and teaching and online are just as important. So let's talk about that a little bit this morning. And if you have any questions, you don't have to wait for the end. Just let us know what they are, okay? Let's just talk a little bit about the concept of what convergence was. So the name of the building is the Information and Technology Convergence. It is not an IT building, okay? Information and technology together, okay? The technology and information are the unifying factor. They're the glue. They're the way that we think about the space. And when I say we, it was a building committee that worked on this for 6 years, right? So by the time we got the planning money and then had a little time off while the state found money to build it, and then a couple years to build the building itself. So the big thing that we were hoping to do, since in higher ed, there tend to be these silos. I don't know if you've heard this concept, right? There's silos. And then there also tends to be turf. I don't know if you've heard of that, you know, like this belongs to me and not you, and I get to use this and you use your stuff over there, right? So this was an opportunity, a rare one that we had at the institution, of building new space, right? That didn't already have lots of claims on it. There were some things that were going to be in the building. There was the programming that says what's in and what's out, who should be in here, and that's how we kind of worked that piece in there. But the big concept was it's for everybody, things that we want to build there. And then that helps us to break down, yeah, you're good. Go back there. Sorry. Yeah, and then we wanted it inclusive there. So each of the people on the building committee had that kind of idea that this is a building for the university, not just for us. Okay? So things we were thinking about, access. We wanted everyone to have spaces and services, convenient location on campus walk, inclusive. The big thing that we wanted to do too was have it right next to the library, which made it a big headache to build because it was in a small space next to a stream that we couldn't get within 100 feet of, and all these kinds of things. But that was something that we really wanted to do. So we also wanted to have the building have support. Okay? So the IT help desk is there. That's one piece of support. But then also teaching our technologies, our writing center, our speaking center, our digital knowledge center, all are in this building together, collaborating, working together, providing the different pieces of support that everybody needs to actually realize digital projects if you want to sign. Equipment, technologies in the building, software, a big problem, right? We have some spaces that have that. Production spaces, we're all going to be important. And the big thing that I really like about the building, it has performance spaces. So ways that you can present your information or presentations or things that are just for fun. And then collaboration and openness, all right, and the glass is all over this building, and you can see through it in different parts of it. We wanted it to be a collaborative space, so we didn't try to say, okay, this happens here and this happens here. You're not allowed to talk there. You are allowed to talk there. We didn't do any of those kinds of things. We did try to create different kinds of spaces that would help the students find whatever made them feel comfortable. If you want to be out in the open, you can. If you want a more private space, you can go find those. There's these niches in the building.
When they let me do tours of the building, I refer to it as the Edward Snowden building because it's all based on surveillance. Like you can be anywhere in the building and someone can be watching you and you never know where they're watching you from, which I think is both interesting in that that's the moment we live in and that the architecture is reflecting it, but it's also a building that we have very few like on our campus to actually have this openness and light and ability to see. So it works both ways, but I thought you guys
selling point, I don't know, but yeah. Flexibility was another big one. We wanted to create so there's the middle couple of floors of the building that are the most open and collaborative spaces. We know technology is going to change. We all know it's already changed by the time we built the building, right? But we wanted to have a space that would allow it to change with us as time goes on, right? So it has some raised floors, it has power underneath, it has air conditioning goes through the floor, all those kinds of things that allow us to later, if we want to reconfigure these spaces, we'll have it. And let's talk about what we converged. Okay, so I talked a little bit about what that concept is. So the first one and the boring one, so we'll get it over with first, is a data center, right? If you're building a building now, you're probably not going to build that, right? You're probably thinking other ways, or it needs to be smaller, or things like that. This is part of our project because it was like, how we got money from the state board, right? And then we needed it anyway. We still did need a data center, though. A lot of students think we're still doing it here, but 5 years from now, this might be great. Who knows, right? The way things are going, but we do have a very nice data center. The other thing that's a big plus here is it brought IT offices out of an administrative building into an academic classroom building. You might say, well, why is that important? I personally think it's really important for the IT staff to see that they're doing that work for those students every day. helps them understand what the mission is and why they're there. So academic support for this kind of gives you an idea of the class we're talking about. So this is our digital knowledge center in the center. On the right is the Division of Teaching and Learning Technologies, which is aimed at faculty support. And on the left, that's our network group. Run that office right across the hall. So I told you we really wanted to have a connection to the library. That's what this is. So we built a bridge to it. It's on the 3rd floor of the building. They have a checkout area too. There's a little piece of the building that we dedicated to the demo program. So there's a digital archive there now that they did not have before. So we can scan the right books and we can use all kinds of digital projects that students can then scan and copy things that were before kind of difficult for them to do in libraries. They have it now. So now they have facilities to do those kinds of things. And then also a digital gallery there where they have some kiosks that they're programming different kinds of digital exhibits. And then we're getting into like looking at ways to have students start to produce those things as well with our museum design classes. All right, so the big spaces that we have, you're looking at our atrium from the 3rd floor looking down to the 2nd, which is kind of the main floor that people come in on. So it has an open space, it has a very open field, lots of glass, lots of natural light. You can change that. So the big thing that the students really like, and this is one of the benefits of the raised floor, if you see these circles on the floor, that's the HVAC that comes through there. But underneath the furniture is the power, and the power is in the furniture. Right? So you have power, you have USB ports right there that pop out so students can kind of charge their devices, which is, you know, the wireless is everywhere. We got that covered. It's the power was still the thing that we wanted to try and do that. And by putting the raised floor, we can put power where it needs to be, where people aren't putting. So here you're seeing another view. Also includes our big video wall that we have. It's a weird shape and a couple stories tall. On the left side, you're seeing what we call our individual study area. So basically, they're set aside for students, not quiet, but it's individuals. So it's like single desks, carrels, those kind of things. On the right is our connection to the library back there behind that pillar. And then the rest is just kind of open space for students to kind of collaborate and use together. Remember, I told you where we wanted to build it was a difficult site. Campus Walk at Mary Washington is the main thoroughfare that everybody goes to move across campus, kind of long and narrow. So this, what you're standing on and seeing right here, is Campus Walk. So we had to close Campus Walk for a year and a half while building it. But the reason we wanted it is farther down as you're looking through that tunnel, that's the library. So right on Campus Walk. On the right side here, you're seeing Blackstone's Coffee Cafe, which was made for us. We didn't have a coffee cafe. And on the left, you're looking into the atrium area of the building that we were just looking at the previous slide. There's some tables, there's some computers there. We'll see them in a minute. But this is like, you're seeing and actually in the building without actually in the building.
And move through. Zach Whalen, who's a professor and colleague, says on Yik Yak, this is known as the judgment tunnel. So that students walk through with all this glass and people like, that's where they're judged by other people. Like, because there really is this sense of a thoroughfare. And you can sit there and watch people in interesting ways, like I said, you can't do anywhere else.
And the thing that's very interesting too is like when we designed the building, we said we don't have anywhere on campus that's like a C and B scene place.
Yeah.
Right? And students actually say they like, well, not all of them, some of them, right? It's a C and B scene place. So here we go. We have a C and B scene place. And if you don't like that, you don't sit there. You go to the other places that are less, more comfortable, more set for you, because we have lots of them. So this is in the cafe, looking across. So Campus Walk is behind that first pane of glass, and the atrium area is behind that second pane of glass. And the Campus Walk with the person walking the dog there, that just goes right through the building. So again, this is another view. So this is from the computers and looking out across at the Campus Walk. We have lots of nice, since we built next to that creek, there's nice woods right there too. So you can see like we have some very nice windows, some small collaboration spaces here that are allowed in technology as far as being able to share screens and things like that. Here's one where it's kind of, I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see, but students are studying for finals right in December. So they have their Yule log for while they study their finals on plasma. We have conference rooms in this building as well, because that was a big need of our campus, because everyone owned a conference room and did not share them very well. So we have about 6 conference rooms in this building of different sizes and have technology set up. All of the AV power network pieces all on the table, so you don't have people cords all across the floor. We have a podium up in the corner too, if someone would like to present in that space, or if you want to present at the table, there's a computer in the room, all those. Here's my student aide at the help desk, like using it for Spotify and making Christmas ornaments at a Christmas party here. We have MediaScape tables in there as well. So places, if you're not familiar with them, they have little pots you can plug in, you put a little button, and then you're projecting your document on the screen there so people can share those. Sometimes the best technology is the old technology. So we have about 15 of those whiteboards that roll around the building, and they go everywhere and are used all the time. Right? So here you see some students that are using basically a combination of the computers and the whiteboards. The other thing that we found that worked out really well, so we have this line of tables here with computers on them, but we left one seat empty on each side. So there's one computer and an empty seat, and the same on each side of that. So other students sit there with with their colleagues and work on projects together, or they plug their laptop in. We have power right there as well. So that's been really interesting too. The red chairs. So part of the concept of the building was to be fun and social too. So we did lots of funky furniture. There's lots of weird stuff. There's stuff in here that, the building committee's like, remember, this is for you, right? This isn't your house and that kind of thing. So a lot of the different things that we're seeing are very kind of different. So one of the things that we put on the 4th floor are these what are called spin chairs. You sit there and you don't do it very long. It is kind of fun. When the building first opened, we had a line on the 4th floor for those students. So again, here's what I'm talking about, the niche areas that we have. So along this hallway, you have different kinds of furniture. We have this replicated through the building. So there's different spaces that people can use for different things. Here's our individual study space again. A view down into the commons area. Our information desk is up there in the upper right corner. And another piece that we have that's important is having these teaching and presentation and performance spaces. Can you go back one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is our digital auditorium. Okay, so it's not a huge space, but we have a big open space that can be lots of things. So when I say it can be lots of things, that wood that you're seeing at the back there, those are actually like very nice bleacher seats that allow when you come out for theater seats. Okay, so you can sit, I think it's 80 people in those for our presentation. We also have that balcony along the edge that has seating on it that you can just sit there and look from the balcony. I'll go back one more. On the side right here is a 20 by 20 giant sliding door, like an old studio. And they have those for that. So when you're looking at that image there behind the balcony, that's the second floor, or the first floor of the building leads out to a garden. We'll see that in a second. The second floor of the building is where the main campus walk is. But they can also look inside the auditorium of that space. If they want to stop in or drop in on the other thing this room has is floor boxes. So we can move the podium to any location that you like. You could do a production around if you wanted. It also has a theater lighting system. So the lighting of the place can be whatever we need it to be to support a particular event. Right? So here you're seeing it lit more dramatically, I guess, for a presentation that we did on our day. Here's just a less formal presentation of a round table I had over lunchtime. Just all of our furniture is on wheels, so we can line it up where we like it. We can plug the podium in wherever we need it to be for particular presentations. And here's, again, you can see that's that 20 by 20 door, and someone's watching from the space up above there. So you have this kind of ability to kind of set these spaces up pretty quickly for 90% of them. It's also very complex. It also has 5 cameras in it, so we get these shoots in there, much like they're what we saw up there. So we can actually capture and stream things out from this space. Here's our group teaching classroom. So we have 6 pods around the room. Each of them has a panel connected to them, and then the instructor can either teach from that podium at the center or the podium in the back corner, depending on what they prefer. This is a space that we designed that didn't have on campus, and it was difficult for us to get a classroom to do something like this too, because this is a very particular kind of pedagogy to teach like this. Yes?
I want to get a sense of the dimension. How big is that?
That room is pretty big. I would say it's probably as big as, almost as big as this room, not as wide. Okay. Yeah. Here's our incubator classroom. And this one's controlled by Jim's group, DTLT. They didn't ever have a classroom they could actually work in, right? Unless they begged, borrowed, and stole it from someone else. And that didn't always work out so well. So this is a space that's loaded with all kinds of things, lots of technology. Not necessarily user-friendly technology. That's what they're for, right? But they're there to try and help and look and then sandbox in a place. We have 4 of those panels that can go around the room. We have tables that can be arranged in lots of different ways. There's video conferencing capabilities in this room as well.
And this would be used, for example, Ryan, who works with us at DTLT, would bring groups of students and classes in to show them Domain of One's Own, a UMW blog. So it's a space we didn't have. We used to run around from class to class, and now we could bring cadres of students and faculty here, not only to show them, but to train them and then get them exposed to the new building. One of the things that was fun, and we talked about in this last, we actually experimented with the incubated classroom, Paul Bond and I, with, as a room for telepresence, there's 4 of those kind of mobile screens around. So we had Paul like in 5 different parts of the room that any student could see almost face to face at any part. And we had microphones in the ceiling. So we really experimented with this idea of telepresence where Paul would come in. The next experiment I want to do in this room is have a group of students meet there every week, but not have an instructor in there. Have a make-believe instructor come in through telepresence and teach it. So the reverse of an online class, a face-to-face class where the faculty member comes in remotely, and experiment with what that would mean psychologically. With they're always there together, but the faculty member is removed. And interesting, but this classroom is an amazing telepresence classroom in some ways, and we are still figuring out what this classroom is and what it looks like. Here's another teaching space.
Yeah, so we have right outside that digital auditorium, we have this little called Convergence garden, which has like a little built-in amphitheater there. So the class out there, you just roll a couple of boards out there, I just walk out of the building. So, you know, this says it wasn't planned or anything, it's just enabled by the building.
So I got to come clean here. Since 2007, 2008, was poo-pooing this building. It's never going to happen. The state's never going to give us money. We had just gone through this tremendous recession. So Jerry was excited about it, and I was like, screw you, Jerry. It's not going to happen. Let's stay lean. Let's stay DIY. And it happened. And so I was continually, for the next 6 years, like, it's bullshit. It's not a good building. Like, I was a pain in the ass, and I had nothing to do with any of it. And as Andy Rush said, but you're going to run over the end zone with the ball at the end, which I didn't, fair enough. I had nothing to do with it. I can take no credit for any of it. But once the building started, we got it up. One of the things that Jerry talked about that for me was really compelling is that we now had a space where we could experiment in the space. And one of our early experiments that we did this semester with Professor Zach Whalen is we built a 1985 living room in one of the corners. And it goes to this kind of sense of an informal academic learning space where we could, you see the couch and the TV and the coffee table, and that's an Atari 2600, and there's a VCR there and a Betamax there, and here is another TV, and there's a big 20 and a Nintendo NES, and this is, like, it's this really amazing space that Zach actually sent his courses to. And we would have students come and informally play with tech. And it was amazing to see that they didn't have to use the Atari 2600. They couldn't figure it out. Like, they couldn't figure out how the VIC-20 would work or how the VCR hooked up. And that position, that piece right up there is actually a laser, is a Selectivision by RCA, which was one of those video vinyl discs. That was this weird analog video thing. So we built this. And without a building like this, we could have never built a space like this. But it was an informal learning space in ways that I think are remarkable. And I'm going to jump out of here for a second and show you some of the things that student created. We brought in a, here's the same picture. We brought in an artist, Michael Branson Smith, who kind of joined us for the DS106 times. And he did something I thought was so cool. He brought with him a transmitter. It was a local, 40-meter transmitter that would transmit video on a TV frequency. So we have 5 TVs in there, and we actually tuned them all to channel 38, and we had programming from 1985 all day long, starting with Price is Right, the $25,000 pyramid, and commercials. And so his art project was to create an entire day of 1985 television. And so we ran it in the actual thing, and we would have these news breaks about communism in 1985 and talking about how our ally Iraq is beating Iran. And it was just such a weird moment where you could learn informally by just taking on the media. And what was interesting is how much more interesting the news and the commercials were than the actual programs. Because the commercials were localized. They told you so much about that culture that you wouldn't guess. Well, the students got in there and they started creating vines about, there's a VIC-20, doing through all the video discs to look at that. The Atari cartridges, which is another great vine, and that will go through them, right? And they started getting experimental with these 3D vines. And so they used, there's Cobra, they used these crazy moments, and there's the TV as it's running. And this is a great commercial, right? You'll notice it, you'll see it for a second, right? That's Florence. There she is. And so we have this commercial of the media happening in time and space in the building, and people would actually inhabit that. And this idea of this building as being a place where people inhabit media, but not just media from now. Media from all over the place. I think the idea of embedding 1985 within this building gave what we have a different kind of intellectual and cultural perspective of how we think about it. Because I couldn't really get behind the shiny technology, but I could get behind embedding 1985 within that. And it was a kind of really interesting kind of moment to look at how students would think about it and imagine it. So let me get back to the presentation. But that's just one of the things students and faculty created as a result of that
The thing that was
space.
fun for me about that, the theater department helped with the set for that.
Yeah,
Basically. But the best part is the VCR was always flashing 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
right.
So totally authentic to 1985. So.
And so another cool performance space is this media wall. And so it started off with some student projects, but we didn't have 24/7 student projects. You'll notice it's a really unique space. And these are some student projects. So when we brought in this artist, Michael Branson Smith, he decided to make an actual filter in Photoshop so that we could create GIFs that worked on the wall. So what we did is we created a whole series of GIFs, and we haven't gone through this, but for a while, Metropolis was playing on there 24/7 for like 3 months, and people were like, I'm done with Metropolis. So we're now experimenting with this idea, and here's a couple of examples, of actually playing with this as a media wall that's also a GIF wall, and there's my reference to Metropolis. But here's the actual template, and that's one of our first GIFs on the wall. It's from Blade Runner. You'll notice it's the eyeball. And it gives you a sense of the magnitude of this wall. There's Travis Bickle, right? And that's from If We Don't Remember Me. And you can get a sense, that's me walking, of how big that is, right? Like, and there's Daphne and Fred dancing on the media wall. And it's just this idea, and there's a sense of its perspective of, and this is a moment where 3 of our students were, or 2 of our students and 1 community member were arrested for the Divest UMW. So on the media wall, someone put this GIF, unfair, unfair. And this idea of the media wall, not as digital signage or advertising, but as a communal art performance space that we build in. And it's interesting that GIFs may be the best way forward in some ways to getting at that. You know, people could argue that point, but I was really interested in how compelling it could be.
People are saying, why did we use such a weird shape? Well, we ran out of money. So what it came down to is like value engineering. Have you ever experienced this on a project? Right? Well, if you were able to take 10 and 100,000, whatever out of the project, but then we were thinking like, if we did a unique shape and we were going to have it be a digital canvas anyway, now you have a project that people are designing for that shape, right? So it's more of a challenge for the students. So our art students are involved in this process. Our faculty,
Jason Robinson is responsible for a lot of it.
How do you facilitate people getting their art and creations up on the wall?
That's something we're working through right now. Originally, we had to submit your work, a big thing on the wall, but no one really submitted. So a group of ours, the photography group, said, why don't we do cinemagraphs, which is just a fancy way to say animated GIFs. And that's what we have, unfortunately, a committee putting together that work to kind of bring that stuff in and get students to populate it. And anyone, like, there was this misconception that it was only student work on the wall, but it really can be anyone in the community's work. And the idea is we have 5,000 GIFs from DS-106 ready to go. And someone has already built a web-based application to show them every 5 seconds. They don't want to do it just yet because they're a little bit afraid of what might show up in those GIFs. But at the same time, there's no reason why we couldn't curate something that's very similar, right? Yeah, it's awesome. I really am excited about that.
The other spaces that we have in the building are first ever videos.
Yeah.
Right. We used to take the green, Andy Russian DTLT used to take the green piece of cloth and hang it all over the place and do the green screen stuff in front of that. But we're able to build a little cyclorama in there that's green, right? So now we have an actual space with lights, quiet, and a way to record things that we didn't have before. So why don't you talk about, so we're already starting to see, now that just came online in April. So here you're seeing some of the early stuff.
Yeah, would you ask? And if you saw the last presentation Paul Bond and I did about those green screens, you see how low budget those are. Well, not that these are that much more high budget, but we used the cyclorama to actually have Zach Whalen, who was behind the console living room idea. We had him go on there and do a 2-minute talk about that. And what we did is with the green screen and how precise it was, we could actually put a video running behind him of the actual video games he was talking about. So I'm going to try and get to that right now. Hopefully this will be quick. It's a little bit of a loader right now. Hold on, let me just do this. Get rid of that. And then refresh this. Okay, let's see if this works. Hopefully. So what's happening is Mindstorm is the game for this Vectric system that's playing behind it. We just found a video on YouTube and we put it on the green screen behind him, and it's just dynamically creating the video game while he does it. Simple, but it took us 5 seconds with the green screen and the video to create. It was a pretty compelling kind of visual effect. And we have now that as a space, we can do it.
Right, many of the spaces we've built, I would say, are currently beyond us. They're a stretch. They're hard for us to use at this point because we never had them before. Right? So we did have a lot of discussion within the committee about, trying to weigh these things. Should we just put in what we're comfortable with and what we already know what to do, or should we stretch a little bit? Okay. So we stretched a little bit in some spaces in that video studio and our digital auditorium.
Yeah.
So, but part of that is a bit of pain we're feeling right now as well, right? Trying to figure out how to actually use these spaces now that we've created, and we're getting there. It's just a little bit of a process to build the skill sets that you need to be able to pull these kinds of things off. And here we have a high-tech lab with tables and, right? So, but at Mary Washington, every lab is owned by somebody. right? So here's one that's 24/7, dual boot max, people can come in and do things. This is also available for like human resources group, and maybe training, all these kinds of things. Here's another big one too. We work with Simpson Library using their scanner system. So now we have a way to check equipment. So, which is already in a process that students already know, and we can already relate to, and here's your card, and here I know, and I scan this, and I bring it back, and it tells me to print a receipt, all that cool stuff that we didn't have to reinvent. We just did the partnership with the library. But now we give them the tools that they need to create the projects, right? Always kind of a missing piece, because before that, well, if your professor's department has recorders, you can use those, or if this person has a video camera, you know, now they have stuff they can just check out. And part of the building too was expected to be fun, right? So we even have a couple of gaming systems there you can check out. Software, high-end software, expensive software, trying to find somebody to do those kinds of things. Well, we built a room for that. Okay, so this is our video editing suite. Very fast machines, very large dual monitors, and a nice suite of different kinds of software you can use to produce things. This is available to students. They just scan their badge and they can give it space for more stuff. Also inside that room is an audio booth. So it's like a room inside a room. So you can go in there and do your voiceovers, or if you want to do a screencast, we have a pack in there so you get all the nice sound and things like that. Very, very nice microphones to use. Again, all these kinds of things aimed at the students. We don't necessarily know what to do with all this stuff, you know, but we're figuring that out. The students figure it out fast.
To what extent did you have to hire new staff to kind of help students or learn how to use these spaces?
We're reconfigured staff, I would say, is probably the way that we did that. We did hire a building manager, so they're kind of responsible for the physical piece of the building, making sure that everything is good. But a lot of these other technical aspects have been kind of absorbed by people that are already working in positions that were aimed at this. Now, if you want to speak to this a little more.
Well, one of the things I think was really great about it was we got a building manager, not full-time until, well, not full-time yet, but hopefully soon. And we had 10 or 12 student aides that were running the ITCC, what we call the ITCC help desk. And that's not like something we have in any building. So whenever you walk in the building, someone's there to greet you to tell you where to go. Now, one of our ongoing complaints is we didn't get enough positions to fully explore what this building is. You know, not only my group, but other groups within it. So that's still part of an ongoing negotiation of, if you build in this infrastructure, how do you support it with human resources? And that's an ongoing issue, I think, for every state institution, but in particular right now. And so, you know, we're a group that always punches beyond our weight. So we tend to get it, but when you're trying to support a building like this, you revert to 1985 technology because that's all you support.
Actually, we've been pretty successful what we've done, but you know, like I said, this is 8,000 square feet of new space. So you know, I think that we're getting. I mean, it's been a huge hit. Students.
Yes.
It's been it's used a ton. There are people in there all the time.
It is a hub. It is now the hub on campus, like without question. It's amazing.
So you know,
What about faculty? Are you getting faculty in there, and is this the main place on your campus where faculty development is happening?
Well, I'll speak to that for a second.
Yeah.
A couple of things happen that I think are interesting. I see more faculty now than I've ever had because we have these 6 conference rooms where faculty committees and other things go. So we have people coming in all the time because those conference rooms are easily bookable with this thing LibCal, with this LibCal booking count. I don't even say that right. So there's that, but it is where we're bringing in faculty, our group, to do development in the incubator room, in the DKC. We haven't really mentioned it, but the Digital Knowledge Center run by Martha Burtis is an amazing boon, and it's part of our expanding the work we've done. Is before we focused on faculty development. With this building and with the Digital Knowledge Center, we do both faculty and student development. And she has taken the charge of training 9 amazing students to actually focus on supporting all sorts of digital projects, including UNW Domains, Domain of its Own, UNW Blogs, and others. So we really have developed some really significant ways of dealing with the demand that this building will bring. But our group, in terms of faculty development, is suffering because we're going more diffuse. So you got to balance that. But, you know, faculty development has still been the cornerstone of what we did, and it is definitely happening in this building.
That was a similar question. I think you see some of these kinds of things in learning commons or libraries or something like that. But what we don't usually see in the spaces is faculty, right? Faculty play, faculty-student interaction. It's typically the faculty are in that conference room and the students are playing the toys over here or whatever you've got. Maybe they're doing an assignment for the faculty member or something like that. But you don't see, I mean, I think that's a huge challenge. Those are the silos that I always think about here. Is the faculty are in that silo, and the students are maybe at grad school, they start getting a little closer.
I have a quick anecdote, and then Mimi, I'll definitely go right to you. But we before worked as a group in the theater department, and we were just kind of this weird padded room that they put us in for like 8 years. We now are kind of more central. We're in this building, we're on the 4th floor, and we have faculty who have basically taken up shop with us, who sit at our bullpen, who haven't been there before, and like are basically part of our group now. And we're trying to push to get embedded faculty who work with us on a regular basis. And I have to believe at least some of that is because these faculty want to be in the building. There's 3 classrooms that they teach at in the building. And so I think the planning group, and full kudos to Andy Rush, Jerry Slazak, Martha Burgess, and others, at least from VTLT, who were part of that visioning of the building and made that possible. Because the building, I think, in terms of its design and space, is bad. It did everything we imagined and more. You know, the resources are just an ongoing battle that you know of, and it's nothing new. But the space is amazing, and I think it maybe not perfect, but it definitely does bring the faculty into the fold.
And I can tell you where we see it most is in the CAT.
Okay.
And can I add a little to that? So I do love that. And we actually, every time I meet with faculty, or I offer to go to their office, people will come from the other end of campus and say, I'm happy to come to you. I don't know, I want to come to you. And so even just in those one-on-one meetings, we have more people coming in our office. I think we have ever, maybe, I mean, certainly in the 2 years. So even for that one-on-one stuff, they want to come to it, they want to do it.
And we're connected with the teaching center now, so there's that sense that the faculty go there and to us. They think of it as kind of a part. Maybe.
This is an interesting discussion because as you were talking, it's just fascinating about, I'm always thinking in terms of genres of learning, but also space, like the sense between, there's the genre of the library or the makerspace, which is very interest-driven and about resource allocation. And there's the genre of the classroom, which I think both are coexisting in this building. But I think the one genre I'm curious about whether you're considering or as part of this is the genre of the lab, because that's where you tend to have affinity groups or interest groups occupying a space and have faculty-student interaction that's more persistent and space identified versus spaces that are really meant to, you know, you book a conference room or you have a class. Like, it's a very different relationship that people have with the space if it's their lab versus it's a library. I mean, these are all really important genres in the ecosystem, but if you're looking for something that bridges the purely informal or the purely self-directed genre, which is library centered, and the very sequential structured genre, which is the classroom and moving stuff, the lab is kind of that mediating genre of space, and I'm curious whether you're supporting that or does that belong in the departments?
We do, I think we have seen some of these kinds of groups in that media lab that we built with the sound booth in it. Every now and then I go in there and see students recording the music that, you know, they clearly look like they've been there all night, right? So they're recording music, they're editing videos together, right? The other lab we have is kind of more traditional computer lab, right? Yeah. But we do have the Think Lab, which is our UMW makerspace in the library. So we did want to kind of, that is important to know that they are another reason we want to kind of connect the two. Would be nice to figure out if we could bring that into the building at some point or somehow. Yeah. Not really in the cards yet, but is that kind of what you're speaking to? I'm just trying to, that you're speaking.
Hanging out space so that it's a place that you know you'll go and your people will kind of be around. And that's how, like in the old days, when a lot of this IT stuff was computer lab centric, yeah. That was actually how nerds were raised, is these certain places that you knew your people don't have to do a full scale kind of,
I-
lab or attaching it to a faculty member is how the traditional labs get structured. But
I think
it
it's
seems like it would be interesting that it's sort of your intuition with the 80s space. It's like you want that kind of movie room where it's a themed hangout space, right? And I think that's cool because it brings people in for that more serendipitous
Yes.
encounters versus it being very task focused or very class focused.
I think what we're hoping for, and it's interesting you say that, because I like the idea of lab. I mean, the active learning classroom is kind of like a lab-like classroom, but still very much a classroom. But we see like the game clubs, for example, they move from conference room to conference room because they don't have a home. And I think there is that sense of people loving the building and not necessarily getting that sense of a home for that very reason. And we didn't design lab spaces in that way either. But one of the things that's cool about the building is we designed it so that it could be redesigned. So the idea is we do see these usage patterns and we do see these needs. Hopefully we can respond and maybe turn some of those conference rooms into labs or start thinking about that. So I actually think it's a great way to think of that genre. I never thought of it like that.
And I can tell you as a member of the building committee, we probably resist an idea like that because we want it to be for everyone, right? So, and if you start to slice off a small piece here and there, now you got to slice off small pieces here and there. I understand what you're saying, and it does sound like something we can think about going forward. It's interesting. So, like Jim's talking about the gaming clubs, they get in they'll reserve those rooms and they'll go in there and they'll do that for 3 to 4 hours a night.
Yeah,
or they have the gaming club in the auditorium as well. So there's lots of stuff. There's just what the part I understand you're talking about. If I understand, it's like the ownership of the space. We don't really have.
Sort of scheduling and informality.
Yeah, we don't really have that yet, but.
Although
I can tell
you can
something-
argue that a lot of the other space that's not conference room is just that. Because a lot of it's open hangout space.
Yeah.
Like 2/3 of the building is actually open hangout
Yeah.
space. To the credit of the
A
design.
ton of it is, and that's, but as far as like, oh, here's where all of this group is, I think the building is just far too busy to have that happen in some way, to think that you're always gonna go there and these people are gonna be in the spot, because the spots get needed.
Yeah.
So, especially, the building has a weird life, right? In the morning, it's kind of quiet, and it's staff and us and, faculty, and then as the day goes on, it's the students coming for lunch or going to the cafe, and as it goes towards the evening, it's just students everywhere.
Well, it may be happening already, it's just
That's right.
unengineered.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, so it might be interesting to just pull the usage of the common spaces somehow, just to get a sense of whether people are appropriating that space for their groups. It's just be
That's a
interesting to
good-
know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a lot of that data, because when they make reservations, they can put down.
And we have usage data too. The building manager has been tracking who uses it and how they use it.
It's an optic.
Yeah, exactly. Like Snowden can provide you any of the information you need.
Or we're getting the cutoff, so people are hungry.
Quick one?
Yeah, I just was curious as how do you get the students engaged into some of the more complex technologies that they don't have to leverage it? I mean, that's the challenge on campus is that we have a lot of technology, but the students haven't had an opportunity to learn how to leverage it in their study.
I have a-
or to make that connection.
I have a quick answer. It's not a perfect one, but what we did this semester with our media production studio just came online is we created what we call the boot camp. And we had departments offer up 2 students from their department who are student aides who were going to do digital stories using the production studio about their department. So they had a reason to go. They sent us, we had like 14 students, and they came and learned the infrastructure and how to use this stuff with the idea that they would come back into media. And the departments loved it because they want to be able to tell their story in a dynamic way using video and audio. So that's one way we did it. We're doing the same thing with faculty. We're having, and staff, we're having them come and do these short trailers. I think BCU knows a lot about those, but we're doing these kind of course trailers. And so we got 35 faculty interested. We only had 12 spaces. So we're trying to do these quick, very focused workshops to get people to use these spaces. That's our approach. Does that help?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
It's fun. Good, because I have it.
What, 8 years in the making, right?
Absolutely. Amazing.
Oh, thank you very much for being all over that. I appreciate it.
How did the process of turning from an idea into an actual committee and then into a building? Like, so at the beginning, there was just this idea, but there was no money. So you get all these people.
Well, the way the state did this one is they told us they would build a building